Let's work on warm and cool colored pencil spheres. So let's start with our warm. So first I made a value scale using dark cool colors to create the shades, and then white and a little bit of yellow to make the tints or lighter hues in the scale. So remember, you want to start with remembering where your light source is, and then I start with the darkest color that I'm going to use to start working on the shade, or the shadow, excuse me. So light layers, building up the color, and then we're going to double time. So I just want you to pay attention to how many colors I start layering, and then how I kind of softly fade it out. So I'm not pressing really hard. I'm using light pressure to do this. And then you also want to think about, depending on what color sphere you're doing, what is the complement, and using a little bit of the complement in the shadow. So I'm using a variety of pencils to give my sphere some richness and dimension instead of just using a flat red color in black. So now I'm adding red, which is my local color, because the color of my sphere is going to be red. So remember, local color is the actual color of the object. And I'm going to start lightly going over those shadow areas I added. And then I'm also going to use more than one red. So I'm not just going to use, that's crimson red. So I'm going to also use a poppy red in there as a brighter red. And then I'll mix that in as I go along. So in the highlight, I'm actually adding a little bit of yellow, and then I'll go over it. So instead of just relying on white, kind of putting in some other colors in there to give it a little more oomph. And then just refining and adding darkness and going back and forth, just finishing up, making sure transitions are smooth. The last thing I do is add the white because it's really hard to kind of color over the white. White kind of adds like a dullish kind of waxy coating to the top. So I always use that last. So I'm using it to kind of smooth out some edges, put in the highlight on the sphere. So it's kind of up to you how you want to use white, or you can find a really light, warm color instead. Then to add the shadow, I'm going to use those cool darks that we've talked about before. So like indigo blue, dark green, violet, violet blue. And those I'm going to use to make the shadow. And I'm also going to put a little bit of red on the top just to have that like reflected local color in the ground. And then finally in the background, just pick a contrasting color to your sphere. So if you're doing the warm sphere, choose a cool color. A complement works really nice too, but I'm using blue in this case because blue and red always look nice together. And then make sure as you're going along you blend that in with the shadow and make it look like a completed drawing. Make sure you're layering, 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 and then for your background colors also layer 2 different colors. Don't just stick with one. We have such a nice sphere. You don't want to make the background not look as nice. And all right, we're just about finished. Nice work.